my Mexican kitchen here in Switzerland. The recipe I'm sharing for today is not one that you can actually, it's not for eating per se like a meal. It's more of a home remedy, one of these grandma remedies, which is a cough syrup. I think a lot of us, and I'm included, we tend to have the bad habit of going to the pharmacy whenever we're sick and just asking for cough syrup, for a cold medicine, anything quick and easy and that we believe is more effective. But I also think that we've made the bad habit into something worse, because a lot of these remedies are even better than the stuff we can get in pharmacies. It's cheaper. It's always good to let our bodies detox from all these unnecessary medicines. I mean, if you are really sick, go to a doctor. But if it's a slight cough, trust me, this is amazing. I mean, I've tried it with my kids. I've seen it with nieces, with nephews, with a lot of family members and friends. With my stubborn husband, which was, sorry, camera guy. He was sanding the stairs, not using a mask and breathing in all this sawdust. And he sounded like this, I don't know, like a sick dog. I don't know, it was horrible. The cough was really horrid, and gave him this, and now you can't hear any coughing. So that's how effective it is. Let's get chopping. It's much cheaper than anything you can get in the pharmacy, so that's also a plus. So come on, let's get started. Okay, so it's extremely difficult to give you guys an exact amount because it depends on how much you want to make, and also on the size of the container you're going to be using to fill up and make your syrup. So basically what you need is an onion and honey. Just buy a jar of honey, whatever honey you want, and that's the two things you'll need. Okay, so before we start, we're going to need an airtight container. It can be a jar, it can be a Tupperware. I want to recommend using a very small one, the smallest one you have at home, because it's such an easy recipe to prepare that I think it's better to repeat once you finish and make a new portion than have a huge jar. The problem with this recipe is it's done with onion, and onion starts fermenting, so the flavor will change after a few days. And if you're using this recipe, especially with children, they're not going to like it after a few days. It's going to be yucky. If you give it to them straight away once it's finished, it'll be delicious. It's not a gross recipe, so that's the really good part. That if it's freshly made, it's really good. After a few days, it's going to be just as disgusting as anything you buy in the pharmacy. So I just recommend the small portions. To get started, what we're going to do is we're going to peel our onion, and since we're using small containers, I recommend just chopping up half of the onion, not the full onion, and if you need more, then you can continue with the other half. What you're going to do is you make thin slices. You slice up half of the onion in a lot of thin slices, and we're going to put in our container 2 big, can be tablespoons, can be teaspoons, it doesn't matter, of the honey onto the bottom of the container. And then you line with a bit of the onion, and then you're kind of going to make a lasagna. You're going to layer honey, onion until you go to the top. After that, once you've finished, you close your container, and you're going to let it rest on your counter overnight. So that's a lot of hours, but that's okay. The honey I'm using, for example, it's a very thick honey. It hardly drips. It's super thick. But tomorrow morning, once it's rested overnight, it's going to be like water. The mix of the honey and the onion, it turns super liquid. So it's going to be, it's a different consistency. And what you're going to do is, once it's done the whole resting, you're going to take out that onion, and you can either use it in salad or cooking, or you can throw it out if you don't mind wasting. And the only thing you want is the honey that's left over. The good thing about it being natural and that it's not a medication is you can have it as often as you need it. So let's say your throat is feeling horrible or you're coughing a lot. You can have a teaspoon every hour or as often as you need it. So let's get started preparing this. Okay, so the jar was resting on our counter the whole night. As you saw right now, I opened the jar and I took out all the onions. The reason that I told you guys to slice it in rings, it's because it's easier to yank them out with the fork or whatever you use. If you chop it up in little pieces, then you have to be fishing in there and figuring out where they are. If you have these rings, you just pull them out and it's super easy. After that, all I did was I gave it a quick stir, and when I was making the video, I showed you guys how thick the honey I was using was. But now it's like water, super liquidy. So what you're going to do with this is you're going to close the lid, and you're going to keep it in your refrigerator. It'll last between 3 to 5 days. I mean, it can last longer, but the taste starts getting a bit funkier and it's less pleasant. So that's why I recommended that you make small portions, so that like that you can make it more often instead of having to have a syrup which is less pleasant as the days go by. But it stays perfectly well for 3 to 5 days in your refrigerator. And the good thing is, since it's not a medicine you get from a pharmacy, it's something completely natural, you can be having it as often as you need it. So if you're having a coughing fit and you need something, this is super good. It's a really good option, and you can have it as much as you want. Once an hour if you need it more often. And once it's done, if you still need some more, you just make it. It's really fast. I don't know if all of you guys know the properties of these two ingredients and why it's such a good combination for a cough. But the honey is kind of like a natural antibiotic. It helps boost your immune system. It helps make less presence of microorganisms like bacteria or fungi that can be causing you to have this nasty cough. And the onion is really good for decongesting. So all that mucus and stuff you have stuck in your lungs, which you're coughing and you feel this disgusting slime in your mouth, that's what helps get rid of it. So the combination of these two ingredients is fabulous. It's cheap. It's certainly not less better than any of the cough syrup you're going to get in a pharmacy. This stuff is really good. It's magic. So that being said, I wish all of you guys a happy new year. I hope you keep safe. I hope you don't need the syrup, but if you do need it, this is a wonderful option. And see you guys next year. Bye-bye.